Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 47. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. The Steelers are still perfect, 10-0 after a fairly comfortable 27-3 Week 11 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars Sunday. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Another Victory Monday. I could get kind of used to these.
We are getting used to
it. Talking about wins on a Monday. That's a good feeling. It was good to have another Sunday early game as well too, especially with this being a short week. Able to kind of fly through some of the post game work yesterday. So obviously with this being a short week, Mike Tomlin press conference on Monday at noon. So Alex and I will be breaking a little bit later in the show for that, and then we'll come back on the other side to recap any maybe late breaking kind of stuff Mike Tomlin has to say, and then we'll get to reader emails on the backside as well. We got quite a few of those, as you can imagine.
Sure. So yeah, the reason why this episode's coming out a little bit later today is because we're waiting to have it published until after the Tomlin presser at noon. So just a heads up there. Of course, we will be back on Wednesday as well before the Thanksgiving game. The night game against the Baltimore Ravens. Dave, before we talk about the game itself and the highs and lows of what happened on Sunday, let's, of course, start with the injury report side of things. And Zach Gentry, the other Michigan man, seemed to be the only player who suffered a significant knee injury, according to Mike Tomlin. That happened in the first half. Juju Smith-Schuster had an ankle injury of some sort, stepped on a flag that the ref threw. That was kind of a bizarre moment. And Joe Hayden suffered some sort of maybe knee/thigh injury. It looked a little scary at the time, but he seems to be okay. Actually returned to the game briefly before sitting out the fourth quarter because of the Steelers' big lead. So from an injury standpoint, Gentry, obviously that could be substantial. The other guys seem to be okay, although on a short week, that could make that turnaround a little bit tougher to accomplish. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what Mike Tomlin, obviously Mike Tomlin's probably not going to tip too much of a hand and probably really doesn't even know, won't even have a good idea. Obviously less than 24 hours after the game ends, and, with it being a short week and all, I think it's safe to assume, and Mike Tomlin said as much, a significant injury for Zach Gentry. So, I don't know what that means, but it probably means the rest of the season there. I found the actual play and all, and his feet getting ripped out from underneath of him, and it's hard to tell exactly if it's a knee injury. How the knee injury may have happened, and I think that's what Mike Tomlin said, a knee injury on that, but. Regardless, it looks like it's going to end his second NFL season prematurely there, and now you have to wonder, what that does for him. This is a kid that obviously didn't play much early in the season, really has only gotten the helmet the last couple of weeks because of Vance McDonald being on the COVID list there, so makes you kind of wonder what the future holds for him at this point here. In the meantime, I would think that you got Kevin Radar on the practice squad. That would be a potential guy that you elevate to the roster later this week for the Ravens game. And then obviously we don't know the status still on Vance McDonald. He was not back obviously or off the COVID list for the game Sunday against the Jaguars. So we'll see what happens in these next couple of days if Mike Tomlin says anything about him. Juju, he looked to be in a little bit of pain later on in that game. They're kind of stiffened up and kind of weird to him stepping on that weighted portion of the flag, and just goes to show you just a little unexpected thing on that field with some of these athletes can can cause something with them. And then Joe Hayden, he said after the game on Twitter that he was it just scared him a little bit that he'll be fine. So hopefully that's the case with him. So we'll obviously, it'll be interesting to see what Mike Tomlin says about really all three of those guys and maybe any other of the guys with bumps and bruises associated will play, as Mike Tomlin likes to say after the game there. So we'll keep our fingers crossed there and see what the rest of the week holds for those, for guys like Juju and Joe Hayden.
Do you remember the clip earlier in the year where Kim Hayward caught a flag that the ref threw in his direction? Why are the refs targeting Steelers players? Why are they peppering them with flags? Can they please not do that? That seems unnecessary. But
do you remember who was the Ravens
Orlando
player?
Brown? I think someone told me Orlando Brown or Orpheus Roy. I always think it's Orpheus Roy, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, got hit almost right in the eye with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think didn't it partially end his career?
I think so, and those things I think were weighted with like BBs in them or something like that. So you see those things get thrown, and I don't know, maybe they need to put sand in them or something. I don't know if that would even help, but unfortunate way that had happened. And I think Juju got a little bit twisted up earlier in the game too, so I think he was already kind of dinged up a little bit, if you will. And now, like we said, we'll have to see. I think they're calling it a toe injury right now. We'll see what the rest of the week holds for him.
It was Orlando Brown Sr., the late Orlando Brown Sr. was the guy, the Browns player that hit in the eye with the flag. All right, so yeah, from a Gentry standpoint, tight end, obviously he's going to be at least out several weeks, if not the entire season. We'll see what happens with Vance. I think Mike Tomlin was asked on Friday or Thursday if he had an update on Vance's status on the COVID list, and Tomlin just succinctly said that he did not have an update on McDonald's status, so we don't know what's going to happen there. And Kevin Rader, the former Youngstown State kid, good blocker, has been in camp for a couple of years, could get the call up, especially if Vance is not available. I mentioned Chris Wormley earlier. I slipped his name in there, and that was because Steelers did activate him on Saturday to the 53-man roster that had an open spot, so they did not have to make a corresponding move to accommodate Wormley. So he was activated and taken off IR the same week, and he played on Sunday and played relatively well. So good to have Wormley back into the fold.
Absolutely it was, and I think he played about 8 or 9 snaps, something along those lines. It was obviously good to get him back in the fold and going again. It caused here's something to look into things now moving forward. What's going to happen with a guy like Isaiah Buggs? Not a great sign. Yeah, you can look at it a couple of different ways. It's a good sign that Carlos Davis has done enough to maybe start getting a helmet on a weekly basis here. But what does this mean for Isaiah Buggs moving forward? In my weekly predictions, it was just a shot in the dark because you really didn't know, because Buggs ended the week not on the injury report after missing last week with an ankle injury. Now, was it just maybe a little tender and they erred on the side of caution with Buggs in this game? We'll see, but obviously not a good sign. You didn't end the week on the injury report, and now you're not getting a helmet right now, and you're talking about same Isaiah Buggs ahead of this game against the Ravens that made a couple of big plays in the second half of that first Ravens meeting there after not having a good first half against the Ravens as well too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Other than that, no surprises on the inactive list. Joshua Dobbs was obviously on there. The 3 players that were ruled out on the injury report were on there, in Trey Edmonds, Jalen Samuels, and Jaron Elliott. And who am I missing? I think that's it, because you only had the 5 inactive. So Buggs was the other inactive for that game. Obviously, Vance McDonald and Kevin Dotson remain on the COVID list. It'll be interesting to see what transpires with these 2 guys, at the start of this week here.
Yeah, it will be. All right, Dave, let's jump into the game itself. And just 30,000-foot view, you won a game comfortably that you were expected to win comfortably. The start wasn't the best. That's kind of been the MO of this team for a while. But, we had talked about this. You specifically had talked about this on Friday's show, Dave, that if you could get a big lead here, rest your starters late, and kind of give yourself that extra benefit going into a short week against Baltimore. Obviously going to be a tough physical game, and that would be ideal. So not only did the Steelers accomplish that, they got most of the starters out for the last half of the fourth quarter. You look at Baltimore and what happened to them. They played overtime against Tennessee and lost that game. So now, it's a small edge. It's not going to make or break Thursday's game, but I'm just saying Pittsburgh gets their starters out halfway through the fourth quarter. Baltimore has to play another overtime period and lose that game, and that's got to give Pittsburgh at least a slight edge going into their Thanksgiving matchup.
Yeah, and plus the game's in Pittsburgh. That's another slight edge. You don't have to worry about all that travel aspect of it. That goes along with that. You have you would think there's more stress on the Ravens this week coming out of them losing and really being outside of the playoff picture and third in the division right now, and all the questions circulating. I'm sure Harbaugh and company will be peppered, and sure, say what you will, I think the pressure of being undefeated, I think you can kind of deal with that a little bit better than you can the other there. And as you mentioned there, I mean, you were able to just in the flow of the game alone get a couple of guys rotated out, and then obviously in the last couple of series get some guys completely out of the game. And obviously it's unfortunate that you had guys like Joe Hayden and Juju get dinged up during the contest, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen there just yet. We'll see. I mean, it is whatever slight advantage you can get on a short week in the NFL, you'll take it. And I think that's right. I think the Steelers do have a slight edge as we sit here right now. But make no mistake about it, this is a Ravens team that gave the Steelers everything they wanted and more just a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to say they're in desperation mode because of the way the rest of their schedule shakes out. But boy, if they want a shot at winning this division, they absolutely have to win this game on Thursday. So you're talking about a lot of motivation there, division game on top of it, and it's not going to be an easy chore any way you slice this thing.
Absolutely. Mathematically, the Ravens will have to win on Thanksgiving in order to have a chance to win the division. If they lose, I don't believe there's any mathematical path for them to take the AFC North. But jumping back into Sunday's game, let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And it was not perfect. It was pretty sluggish to start. And Jacksonville, as they typically do, Todd Washer, defensive coordinator, could disguise his blitz as well. And they dialed up a ton of pressure in that game. But it was a couple of MAC guys. Mike Tomlin calling out the MAC guys this week. And it was Ben to Deontay Johnson, Miami, Ohio to Toledo. And Ben was not perfect, but obviously, made some big plays, and Deontay made some really difficult catches. And so those were not the only two guys, of course. The run game was a little bit better. A lot of credit goes to James Conner for that. But the offense, was able to get into a rhythm starting in the second quarter and just kind of did enough to have a comfortable win in this one.
Yeah, this is a common theme, and it's really been a common theme with the Steelers for a while, right? I mean, for a long while, even going back to, Todd Haley and Bruce Arians, Ben is the kind of quarterback I think that likes to take some time to kind of figure some things out here, and the coordinators as well too. They usually, and we talked about the scripts and all like that in the past, and how sometimes those are kind of twofold, because you want to start the game fast, you want to move the football and try to get some scores early in the game, but on the flip side, you're kind of using it to see what's going to be presented across from you. And I think that's why you get some of this clunkiness in here when it comes to Ben. Just him trying to figure things out there. Ben didn't help himself out early in this game either, right? Couple, I think, bad reads and throws in this game, and then, or at least early on. But what seemed to really be the catalyst was the throw, I think, kind of a back shoulder throw, if you will, or down the sideline throw to Deontay Johnson really seemed to kind of be the catalyst there early in the second quarter.
Yeah, they finally found the rhythm, and then obviously, one of the bigger plays was that is the back shoulder one you're referring to, the one at the 1 yard line, or was there a different one that I'm?
I think that one down kind of was it the leaping one down the sideline in that drive by Deontay, not the one down by the goal line.
Okay, a separate one.
Right. The early one in the second, the big play. How many yards was that?
I do not know.
I'll have to look at that one.
Yeah, I can't envision the play in my head right now. But yeah, I mean, obviously Deontay finished with a big game, 12 catches, 111 yards. And when this guy is able to finish a game, I mean, he just gets peppered with targets. Some of that is the nature of the position he plays. I know they're kind of going away with some of the letters in terms of the position, the X, the Z, the F. But I mean, Deontay is the X receiver, the backside guy, 3x1, and you're going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups and get a lot of targets because of it, the same way that AB did. And that Jaguars secondary was very beat up coming into the game, and they lost guys throughout the game as well. And so, again, you just kind of overwhelmed the Jaguars secondary with the talent of Deontay and Claypool, and Ebron catches a touchdown. So just really too many weapons for most of these defenses in particular with thin secondaries to really match up with in a 60-minute game.
Yeah, you could kind of feel this one coming ahead of it just off of the injury report alone, right?
Sure.
You saw that they had to play CJ Henderson on IR earlier in the week. Yeah, they got DJ Hayden back, but he's, you could tell that he was probably going to mostly be a slot player in this game. And also he, is coming off of that injury, rushing him back kind of seemingly the way they did. You could kind of smell that coming. And then Sidney Jones at the end of the week with that Achilles was questionable. You could kind of feel that he was going to be a kind of maybe even a game time decision. Well, he ended up being scratched, and you look at the couple of cornerbacks they had to start on the outside, and then Hayden in the slot for them. This all just set up too well for the Steelers, to have some nice, tasty matchups with their wide receivers, really across the board, outside and inside with Juju. I'm looking at the play-by-play right now. It was the 3rd down and 5 pass, I think, to James Washington over on the left side that Ben kind of looped over the top there.
Mm-hmm.
That
was
really
a great throw.
Yeah, that was the one that was the catalyst, not one to Deontay Johnson there. Once he hooked up on that on a 3rd and 5 with about 8:17 left in the second quarter there, that's the play, because 2 plays later after that is when he hit Chase Claypool down the right side against Clay Brooks
I think it's Chase Claybrooks against Chase Claypool.
Yeah, a clay-on-clay crime, if you will.
Yeah.
But look, I think I highlighted that on Twitter before the game too. That specific matchup, especially deep, was one that favored the Steelers in this game. And as we said, really across the board, when you look at the Jaguars secondary in this game, it really didn't match up well with the Steelers at all. So once Ben got rolling, that pass to Washington, then that touchdown pass to Claypool, then yeah, it was on at that point. And look, Claypool I think had 4 catches for how many yards do you have? 50-something yards, 60-something yards?
59.
Yeah. On top of it, though, he had another 50 yards that came via pass interference penalties that he drew there. So, we talk all the time about stats and hidden stats, and we did recently, I think, talking about Ben and drawing some of these pass interference penalties down the field. A couple more in this game as well, too, and that hidden yardage is huge. And I thought overall Ben pushing the football down the field, and I think I even wrote on Twitter, don't be surprised if he takes the most deep shots all season in this game against the Jaguars, and that's exactly what he did. I think he took 13 in total. 2 of those, of course, were wiped out by penalty there, and I think he hit 3 or 4 of the other ones, 4 other ones out of the remaining, 11 or 10 or whatnot, and completed those for almost 100 yards. And obviously the touchdown in there was in there, but unfortunately an interception was as well too. I thought the back shoulder to that you talked about, referenced early, to Deontay Johnson, just a great timing throw on that. Deontay Johnson made a great snag on that one, and boy, just so nice to see Deontay Johnson get off to a much cleaner start. It's one of the things we talked about all season, right? Deontay's played well in some of these games. It's just you'd like to have him see him have cleaner starts, and I thought he did in this game. I think he had damn near 100 yards, almost 100 yards in the first half alone.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I don't think it was Ben's best game. There was some decision making that was a little questionable. Got away with a couple of throws, some ball placement issues that kind of popped up, but he made enough big plays against the weak Jaguars defense that's going to get you the victory. And of course, the one you referenced, the 31-yard touchdown to Chase Claypool, was the play that gave Pittsburgh the lead. They never would look back from, and that was just a really good throw and a great route by Chase Claypool. You mentioned about Claypool stacking cornerbacks vertically, and he did that. Outside release, gets on top of the cornerback and finishes the play. It was a great play by Ben, though, to look off the safety. And it was a single high safety. Ben's looking left before coming back to his right and hitting Claypool. And so Claypool stacks the cornerback. The safety's now not impactful in the play because Ben looks him off. So just a great job by quarterback and receiver to make that play happen. And that gave Pittsburgh a 10-3 lead. They would have another touchdown before the end of the half. And really from there, they were kind of coasting.
Not so much on that touchdown, but later in the game on one of those that drew the penalty. Was it Claybrook that pulled him down on one of those times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I thought that play, we've talked about, we seem to be talking about sometimes, no, look, the kids making great catches and all like that, but I think the plays that are most impressing me with Claypool, at least in the last couple of weeks, are plays that didn't end in completions. We talked about the pass interference on William Jackson, the third in that game, right? And the route that he ran in that particular play there. Well, I really thought, Alex, the most significant play or route by Claypool in this game was that one that Claybrook pulled him down, because he got a clean get off, and obviously we don't have the all 22 yet, but I think you can see this obviously in the replays and on the regular TV footage. He stacked him, He flat out stacked the defender in that play, and really he put the defender in a position where he had to pull him down. I think in that situation. Now, one other pass interference. Once again, we're talking about maybe some plays that Chase Claypool maybe should come down with, even though he's being interfered with. And I think Ben Roethlisberger talked about that after the game as well too. That look, he's understanding. He's a big body guy. He's a guy that can get down the field, and it's tough to defend. And much rather have the touchdowns in those situations other than the PIs. But look, it's all part of the development there. And the big thing is in addition to making the plays and getting the yardage and the touchdowns, his ability to get off the line in these situations is also resulting in those in significant hidden yardage down the field.
Yeah, I did a video on this last week with Claypool, and obviously there are so many impressive things about him. Some of the things are obvious, the get off the bus stuff, how big he is just overall and how fast he is and just the overall athlete. But his quickness, his change of direction, especially as a route runner, is just really impressive. You don't see too many guys that are kind of as big and long as he is, that can change direction so quickly and break down, and either that's in the middle of his route, breaking down his route, or post catch. I think they made a comment during one of the cutbacks he had on the broadcast, Charles Davis did on Sunday. So it's just a rare blend of just overall just size and quickness and maturity and conditioning, and just kind of makes you a special player. Because again, I cannot stress enough, I mean, it is so hard to be a rookie this year given the circumstances, and he's responded as well as you could possibly hope for, exceeded, I think, my expectations. So a really impressive guy with a rare skill set in a lot of different ways.
Remember earlier in the season, I said he could be a guy that has 2-3 touchdowns. He could be a fantasy dynamo when it comes to touchdowns. Now, obviously, he's doing that, but he's obviously catching balls on top of. When I made that comment, I'm thinking, okay, well, we could get in a situation where maybe he has 15 catches on the season and has 7-8 touchdowns. Well, obviously he's far exceeded that, and just you look at the record that he broke or tied yesterday, or I guess broke in the Super Bowl era, and tied as far as history of the NFL players in their first 10 games first season having 10 or more touchdowns, that's him. I mean, that's quite significant, when it comes to him. Look, he's here to stay. He's a force to be reckoned with. You've seen all the things on tape with him that you saw at Notre Dame, the combative catches, the catching the footballs down the field, even some stuff, probably even more impressive with him is some of these speed outs there, some of those timed speed outs on him that Ben and him are getting that timing down with. And not only that, I think that first one on those out routes was a ball that was actually kind of maybe just momentarily tipped at the line of scrimmage, and Chase did a good job of kind of delaying his whole body and not only catching that, but getting, at first I wasn't sure he got 2 feet down with that one, but he was able to drag both feet in that one as well. So you're getting the entire package with him, and boy, he's out snapping James Washington, easily kind of 2-1 at this point here now. So he's a guy that it's hard, especially in 3 wide receiver sets. I mean, look, you got Juju, going to be tough to pull him off the field, and you got Deontay, who's your backside X in a lot of these situations. Those guys aren't going to come off the field a lot of the times there, and most definitely when you're in 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, that's all Claypool now. I mean, and it's been that way for 3, 4, 5 weeks now.
47 snaps for Claypool yesterday, 21 for James Washington, so more than doubled what Washington had. Yeah, it's a clear sign, and it's the obvious decision, just given the ascension of Claypool and how much better he's going to be. So first non-running back since Mike Ditka in 1961 to have at least 10 touchdowns in his first 10 games for a rookie, and he is now just one away from the Steelers' franchise rookie record of 11 touchdowns in a season set by Franco Harris in 72 and Louis Lips in 84. So good chance he's going to tie that pretty quickly and break that in short order. So really, really special rookie season for Chase Claypool.
Yeah, really. As we stated, really the only kind of knock on him right now is just some of the balls that he's being interfered with. You'd like to see him come down with a couple of those hitting him in the hands, but other than that, I mean, Kevin Colbert, boy, he is the guru when it comes to getting these wide receivers and drafting these wide receivers. And we talk every year, going back to 2000 when Kevin Colbert, has only been just a few years in there that the team hasn't drafted at least one wide receiver, and now you see why. You just keep the pipeline going with those guys, and obviously we'll see what happens with Juju this offseason here. If able to lock up Juju before the draft, then I don't know. Do you need to draft? Is this the one year that you maybe don't need to draft a wide receiver upcoming? Because obviously you got Washington at least one more year probably underneath you in 2021. Obviously Claypool's still young. Juju, Deontay's still young. Ray seems to at least be in the talk moving past this season, the way he's playing, not only as a receiver, but as a returner as well. So if there's one thing the Steelers can draft, that they might not be able to draft cornerbacks all that well, but they damn sure can draft wide receivers. And that's been the case for obviously since going back to 2000.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, Colbert's first ever draft pick was literally a receiver, Plexico Burress, and just kind of been that story ever since. And speaking of Juju, birthday boy yesterday, 24 years old. Not a great game for him, just 4 catches, 19 yards, had that ankle/toe injury, but they got to sing happy birthday to Juju on the field. Claypool finally remembered a celebration. He's been saying that for weeks. He keeps forgetting to do celebrations. Finally had one. That was a fun one.
It was. And, the thing with Juju, though, and we've talked about this last couple of weeks, man, it's the little things that really don't show up in the box score with him. What we would classify as hard yak on him. And then additionally, that guy out on the edge, one of the traits the Steelers always desire with the wide receivers is to be physical and have the willingness to block and do the little things like that. He obviously did that back at USC. That was very visible on his college tape, and that's carried over. And time again, at least 3 or 4 times a game at least, you see him, doing that. And you saw him do that out on the edge on one of the James Conner, I think, reverse field runs there. This is a guy that is all in. And, we said this on the show, I think, either Friday or Wednesday. It's just unimaginable how people take issue with Juju. Okay, yeah, the guy likes to get on social media, make the videos and all like that, and do the celebrations. But I mean, if that's the knock that you have on Juju with him, because the attitude's there, obviously the play on Sunday's all there, and yeah, he got a little dinged up last season and all like that. I mean, if that's your beef with Juju. Oh man, you're just a hard person to please, because once again, some of the things that don't show up in box scores with him certainly do when you turn on the tape. And yes, statistically that probably wasn't his best game there, but more than once he showed up on tape in that game against the Jaguars.
Sure. I mean, the entire receiver room, the entire team has talked about how selfless that receiver room has been. I know Deontay Johnson was referring to how special this group is, whether that's, Juju doing the dirty work and digging out a safety, or lead blocking on a screenplay, or James Washington accepting a reduced role because of the job that Claypool has done. I know that being 10-0 certainly helps any individual issues someone may have, but it's a really selfless room, and it's a young room. I mean, it's a mature group for really no one being older than 24 years old. And so it's a fun group to watch. It's a special group, and they're really playing well this year. And the last note for the passing game, the Ebron touchdown. How about play action under center? How about that? I didn't know that was legal.
That's a Sasquatch.
But you were in heavy personnel and kind of ran that little skinny post to Ebron, and just a good route and throw, and to cap that one off to make it 27-3 and really ice that one away. So Ebron continuing to make plays down. That was a red zone touchdown, right? That was from how far out was that one?
Right
20
yards.
So,
20,
yeah,
yeah.
Right there in the red
zone. Does
that
actually? Just different people qualify these things different ways. Do they actually count that as red zone?
I do 20, but some people may do inside the.
I'm trying to think if the NFL does in those situations. How many trips, if you include that?
They were 1-for-1 according to ESPN in the red zone yesterday. So there probably isn't one, because the Benny Snell touchdown was obviously the red zone.
Right. So I don't think the NFL or I don't think they technically qualify that as a red zone touchdown. I think it has to be inside the 20.
That is the minutia portion of today's show.
The thing about that, we talked about, we were joking earlier or on Friday or on Wednesday when or it had to be Friday after Randy Fietner had talked about Freebird Randy talking about Freebird Fittner talking about the fullback, and how probably going to use the fullback, and I think one of the look, I'm not opposed to obviously anything that's going to help the running game get a little bit better. If that includes having a fullback on the field, so be it. But one of my biggest concerns is, look, if you're going to get that fullback on that field, you gotta start passing out of those formations and those personnel groupings as well too, because if you're just going to play 9-10 plays a game and you're going to run out of all of them, then you're really just you're tipping your hand in those situations there. And lo and behold, what do they do with Derek Watt on one of those plays? He was in there on that Ebron touchdown. That's what you want to see. You want to see Watt in the backfield on those plays, and then you like the play action with Ben under, because everything screamed run in that situation. Mm-hmm. Everything. And when you go against the tendencies like that, and then once again, this was almost a carbon copy of that play against the Bengals, right? Of Ebron down the seam there, the way he kind of stemmed that out there. I don't know what the free safety was thinking. I hope they made him pay for the ticket to watch that, because he's flat-footed as flat-footed could be in the middle of the field on that one. Ebron stems that to the outside, which I'm guessing cover 3 situation there on that particular play. And then the play action really just freezes everybody, and Ben puts a bullet right on on Ebron, and by the time the free safety reacts, Ebron's in the end zone on that. So how many times have we talked about how nice it would be to have a tight end going up the seam making catches, and now we're almost getting at least one of those, it seems like, a week out of this offense, and it really is good to see.
Yeah, again, the theme was so many weapons on this team, and the Jaguars, who didn't have a great defense and secondary coming into this one, losing guys before the game, losing guys in game, just could not match up for 60 minutes. They could match up for the first quarter, they were able to get through it, but for an entire game, just not going to be able to sustain that. So that is the offensive output. And for the pass protection overall, I cannot say enough about this offensive line, this pass protection. I know part of it is a talented receiver. It's Ben getting the ball out of his hand quickly. I think the stat was like 2 seconds yesterday, but Ben has not been sacked in 4 or 5 games. He's not been sacked in 3 straight games. That is the first time in franchise history the Steelers have gone 3 games without allowing a sack. It's only been sacked twice over the last 5 games. I think we're up to 150 straight attempts without a sack for Big Ben. I'm guessing that's a career best for him. I know there's a lot of components to that, so it's not just the offensive line, and the Jaguars certainly did not have a potent pass rush, especially after losing Josh Allen, their top pass rusher, but man, that is impressive stuff. So kudos to the O-line, kudos to Ben, that unit coming together, and Ben's jerseys barely needed washed after the last 5 games.
I don't know. He was on the ground a couple of times, but not as a result of sacks there. And look, he's getting a nice mix of getting that ball out quicker, and a lot of things that we've talked about, being able to push the football down the field on top of it. Big play. You got to have a big play element in your offense. You absolutely have to have that, especially the further you get along into this thing and get into the playoffs here. And I don't care how the big plays happen. I don't care if it's a 5-yard run and then a 15-yard penalty on the defense. That's an explosive play. I don't care if it's a 20-yard pass interference play. I obviously don't care if it's a deep ball down the field that way, picking up yardage that way, or what I consider freebies, which are explosive runs. If you get those, that's just like kind of icing on the cake. You're starting to see this now from Ben, and on top of with most of his throws being quick. The only really big complaint still at this point is the gap between intended air yards and completed air yards for him. That's really the only complaint, and it's first world problems right now. At 10-0. So, look, early in the game, was there a ball that was off the mark to Deontay that he probably should have had, or, that the two probably should have connected on? Yeah. Were there maybe 2 other throws that Ben got away with? Yeah, those are going to happen. Look, to be 10-0 anyway, you got to have a couple of breaks. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, and they've gotten them there. And yeah, I don't know about you. The most irritated I think I was at the offense in that game was you get the ball back right before halftime again, and Ben gets a little bit greedy on avoiding pressure or stepping up, and then throws that ball in the end zone and gets picked off in a situation where you thought, oh man, 3. In fact, I thought before they even ran that play, I thought they were going to kick a field goal right there, because there's 9 seconds left, I think, and they came out and ran a play, and it was one. Look, I understand trying to make a play, and not going to get on that. Just very, very results biased on that one there. But man, live to play another down, or in that case, kick another kick there. And that was obviously the most aggravated I was in the first half, was the turnover there when you probably should have had 3 points.
Yeah, just one of those live by the sword, die by the sword kind of mentality there with Ben Washington. I don't know if he saw the ball. He got pushed a little bit, but yeah, just not a great play overall. I would have kicked a field goal, made it a 3-possession game, get ball at half, go down, score again, and kind of put that one away. But what are you going to do? Steelers still get the win. And then for the run game, it was better. I don't think it was great, and a lot of it had to be James Conner creating on his own, but it was better. They rushed for over 100 yards, and they were under 50 straight the previous 3, so I will call it a a first step into trying to get this run game back on track.
Yeah, and I think Mike Tomlin said that in so many words himself, right? You know,
He had one of his Tomlinisms.
What was his exact phrase?
It was something kind of funky, and only ways that the Tomlin can phrase these things.
First crack at it, or
we're not going to crack that nut with the first swing. Okay, I guess.
Look. Here's the big takeaway about that, and once again, we're talking about kind of first world problems here. You had some explosive runs, all right, and some almost explosive runs. I think James Conner had 1 for 25. Did he have another one over 20? I know he had a couple that were close to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of feast. It was kind of feast or famine when it came to the Conner runs, right?
Yeah, a lot of them, again, was him creating, trying to bounce runs outside, trying to win the corner, which he did. I mean, he did a better job of that than I expected against this Jaguars defense. So a lot of it was just kind of making his own way. There weren't any giant holes he was running through. A lot of it was just, the Jaguars being aggressive up front and spilling these runs to the outside. And Conner was able to win some matchups on the edge. And so that's kind of the bulk of the success for the run game, but I will take it.
He had 25 and a 17 and a 17. So that's 34. What's 34 and 25? That's 59 of his yards came on 3 runs. I think the other positive to come out of that was the short yardage runs that we've talked about, getting some success. Benny Snell obviously with the short yardage touchdown, which there wasn't really a lot. J.C. Hassenauer was in the game on that one, and really they went heavy across the board. I think Hawkins, Hassenauer, and Watt. That sounds like a law firm for you.
There you go.
Right?
It does.
That heavy set there. I thought J.C. Hassenauer did a good job of kind of kicking out the edge defender on that play, and just a good eye for Benny to get contact and then get into the end zone on that. So that was a positive short yardage one. I think Benny Snell had another short yardage one that looked like he might get stopped short of the chains initially, and he fought through for that one. So that was another good one there. Those are successful runs, and once again, it all boils down to successful run rate. So, there's some stuff to clean up. It didn't necessarily look pretty on a few of those runs, but you're talking about an offense that had over 100 yards rushing after having 3 consecutive games of, what was the number?
Under 50.
Under 50. Once again, we're talking about first world 10-0 team problems right now.
Well, to me, that was a big problem. I mean, to be under 50 yards 3 straight games is a glaring problem, especially against some really bad run defenses in Dallas and Cincinnati. So to get some traction there was important. Again, I don't think the line did a particularly great job, but Conner, I thought, did well in pass pro, and so you kind of take it again as that first step. Overall, Dave, Benny Snell is kind of entering Jerome Bettis 2003, 2004 category. He's got 5 career rushing touchdowns. 4 of them are from 1 yard out. The other is from 4 yards out. So he is very much the short yardage goal line type back for the Steelers right now.
Look, I have no issue. I know people are saying, okay, why are you using McFarland the way that you're using him, having him running between the tackles? I guess people forgot that already that McFarland was able to run between the tackles at Maryland, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's less about McFarland. It's about just the blocking up front. You can't just run everything outside with McFarland. It's one of those red lights you talk about. Okay, McFarland's in the game, ball's going outside. I mean, that's not how you construct an offense.
Now, did you get the results out of McFarland that you hope, or have you gotten the results out of McFarland this season as a whole as maybe that you hope? No, absolutely not. You have not. But I saw this broken up on Twitter as kind of a criticism of the Steelers running game of you have Conner running outside and you have McFarland running inside. Folks, if you think that McFarland is just an outside runner right now, coming out of college, then you weren't paying attention. Look, did he break some runs on the outside? Absolutely he did. But one of the main attractions to McFarland, I thought, and one of the things that learning about him more after the draft than pre-draft was the fact that this is a it was a smaller or a smaller stature, I guess, running back. He's put together more, obviously better than what you would think he is. But he is a guy that ran consistently well inside, and that was one of the draws on him. Once again, have you gotten the results out of him that you maybe had hoped to get at this point of the season? No. But have you gotten results out of the entire running game inside between the tackles so far this season? No. So let's not dice this. Let's dice this thing up when it comes to the running game, that they still got a lot of work to do in several areas across the board. It's not the actual, one back needs to be running inside and the other back running inside. Really, the bright spot, I think, more than anything, biggest bright spot takeaway was Connor and those couple of big runs, and then these short yardage runs that Benny Snell produced. Those were the biggest takeaways from the running game, at least going in a more positive direction. Pouncey needs some work up front. I think a lot of it starts there. Just not sustaining blocks long enough, I don't think, and getting those linebackers cleaned up on the second edge. There were a lot of players, it seems like, especially in the first half of that game against the Jaguars, that were working downhill with ease in filling those gaps for the Jaguars. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I'll have to go back and look at it. I mean, some of the stuff that Connor was running outside was not designed to go outside. The 4th and 1 is a great example of that. The Jaguars just blitzed everybody up the middle, the A and B gaps, and that forced Connor to bounce it. And he made a great play to avoid the cornerback and to get 17 on that play. And some of the stuff that was maybe felt outside was just him trying to run power. And again, they're still struggling with guards on the move. The Castro Fowler just runs not giving you positive results, and it's hard to pinpoint right now off TV tape what's exactly going wrong from the Jacksonville game, but the power runs are still struggling, and so that's supposed to be bread and butter of this run game. And until that gets fixed and produces better results, this run game as a whole probably isn't going to find the consistency and efficiency that it needs to be. But again, first step, I thought Connor played really well. I thought he really created it on his own. I was on my winners list, and so you will take it and hope for better days against Baltimore.
And look, Eric Ebron does good when asked to block down from the outside, right? Other than that, not so good. I'm interested when Vance McDonald comes back, and look, Hawkins, I understand how they're using him, but I've never been a fan of bringing in that extra lineman and always running out of it, especially if you're not in a short yardage situation there. I think you just putting an extra. I think you're tipping your hand one, and then if you decide to pass out of it, you obviously don't have the extra skill position player in those situations there. I'm really interested to see, and look, Gentry just isn't a blocker, okay? I haven't seen enough. I mean, he had a decent rep or two, I think, in some of those run plays against the Jaguars before he went out injured. But I think in total, even he only played like 6 or 7, 8 snaps along those lines there before he left. Maybe even fewer than that, 5 or 6. But I guess what I'm getting at is it'll be interesting to see what happens now with Kevin Radar, because I really think that guy is potentially still your best blocking tight end on the team. I don't know if he's going to get a helmet though, because if obviously if McDonald comes back, you're going to dress him and you're going to dress Ebron. You weren't dressing a third tight end before Gentry went down. Are you going to dress one after Gentry went down? If you had the extra helmet to give, however, I would give it to him, and I would like to see them put Radar on the field in a couple of these 12 and 22 personnel groupings, and then see how that goes. I'm done with seeing Derek Watt line up at tight end. I don't know about you, but that's another instance where I think you kind of tip in your hand in those situations. If you're going to put Derek Watt on the field for 10 snaps a game, I want him in the backfield. I want to see him function as a lead blocker on some of these fullback leads, and B, I want to see some of that stuff that we saw with the passing game and running play action off of that as well too. So I think there's still a couple of things. And here's one other thing that we continually talked about the last couple of weeks. Why are they getting away from the pre-snap motion so early. I think we're dealing 5 or 6 plays maybe in total. Now look, I understand in the second half and in the fourth quarter why you're not using that stuff. You had to lead in those situations, and especially the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 runs of the game. There's no sense to putting any of that crap on tape at that point there. But in the first half, I think they used pre-snap motion maybe 3 or 4 times in there, and then they got away from it again. So I'm not understanding that, because you had some nice successful run rates early in the season when you're using that, and now all of a sudden you've kind of gotten away from it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big proponent of using it for this game. They tried some of the jet plays, the pop passes with Ray. Neither of them worked. And I think Jacksonville was just pretty disciplined. So I think they just want to go back to basics and try to restart this ground game from the ground up. And that's why you're not seeing as much motion right now, which I'm okay with as a temporary thing, especially against Jacksonville, where I didn't really feel like it was going to be successful.
Man, use some of that orbit motion or some of that reverse, some of that stuff that we've seen, halfway and then reverse motion. Just mix. You can mix it up a little bit more and keep it part of there, and to see how defenses respond to it. And plus, it puts stuff on tape for other teams to think about. But
yeah,
once again, here we are. We're dissecting a blowout, a 27-3 win on a 10-0 team.
Right. There you go. So let's flip over to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and dissect what that unit did. And Dave, had I told you that Minkah Fitzpatrick had 2 interceptions in this game, you wouldn't really bat an eye. If I told you Terrell Edmonds had 2 interceptions in this game, you bat all your eyes. And so that's what happened, though. Steelers, both Edmonds and Fitzpatrick, 2 interceptions in this game. And I could not be happier for Terrell Edmonds to have him kind of finally get that monkey off his back and get those big plays. And you could see just how excited his teammates were for him. I mean, first interceptions he had since week 3 of his rookie season back in 2018. So really good game from him. We've talked about how much better he's gotten, especially this year. It was all the question about can he make some splash plays, and he did against Jacksonville. So that was really cool, and his best game of his career.
Absolutely, bar none, easily. I can't wait for the all-22 to come out so I can actually see the moment that the monkey is pulled off of his back. Because that's one thing that we've talked about consistently with him. Is this is a guy that's playing better this season. It's very, very visible, but still lacked the splash plays. That was the one thing that we were waiting to see more out of him, was the splash plays. And now, get a couple in one game. That's absolutely huge. The first interception, I think it was a cover 2 situation there. I thought Luton should have made that throw. That throw was there for him to make. He sailed it, and you got to make quarterbacks pay for that when they do that. And Edmonds was right there for the pick. The second pick that Edmonds had was just absolutely phenomenal. Him reading it, the ability to read and get himself into position, and not only that to make the athlete. That one play is probably the biggest example of probably why they drafted Edmonds where they drafted him, the whole spark thing, because he showed a lot of athleticism on that play and getting up in the air and making that interception there and tipping it to himself.
Yeah, those were just ball skills and hands we hadn't really seen so far in his career plays. He struggled to finish interceptions that he almost had, or tip passes that just couldn't come down with, and so you finally saw it. Him capitalize on that moment there. And so some people said, they weren't really high quality interceptions and they weren't amazing plays. And
the second
maybe
one was.
They weren't. I thought the second one was pretty good. It wasn't. He just dropped out in zone and Luton kind of threw it in his area, but that Edmonds did a great job to finish the play. But overall, who cares? They're interceptions. They're big plays. Minkah Fitzpatrick's interceptions in this game were not that difficult. One was a tip pass. The other was an overthrow that he slid down for. So I don't think anyone's talking about how low quality Minkah Fitzpatrick's interceptions were in this game. So I don't care, man.
It's because it doesn't. People got narratives out there that he's a bust. So they've got to protect their narratives. And
that's why I'm happy for Edmonds, because I know I've been very critical of him from a splash play standpoint. Probably no one's been more critical of him than I have, but I know he's gotten, I'm sure, a lot of hate mail for just overall play and a lot of people probably say, "Oh, you suck, you're a bust," blah blah blah. So for him to kind of have this moment, just to shut everyone up for a second and have his teammates super excited for him, and of course him be excited for himself, is really cool. And again, as a tackler, as a run filler, and his run fits this year have been extremely impressive, very consistent. His missed tackle rate's been cut in half from 12% his rookie sophomore year to 6% this year. Overall, you're really seeing a guy that, young guy coming out pretty raw, is really kind of finally coming into his own.
I think, and one of the things, and you've known this for years, and obviously when Matthew Marksy came on, just ahead of you years and years ago, one of the things I've always tried to pride the site as being sometimes and caution people who have written for us or still write for us today is, boy, be careful with your proclamations in absolutes, because players can get better throughout their career. It's okay to analyze something, to say, look, this is where this player seems to be failing at, or this is where this player seems to be very good at, and all. But and that's where fans and a lot of these media guys and other people get in trouble with there is they want to put these firm proclamations and absolutes out there on people, and when they don't go certain ways with players, then they really look foolish and then start talking about, well, those weren't high quality things. Look, here's the thing that Alex and I have said on Edmonds all season, and that was the fact that he's playing better. We just need to see him make splash plays more. It's really been the thing that's kind of the big gap in first round versus the thought that this was a third to fourth round type player here. Look, you can say what you will about Bud Dupree for the first couple seasons as well, too,
exactly.
Right?
Sure.
When it comes to him. And, boy, is there do you want anybody else on the edge opposite of TJ? Hell, you got people right now. I get emails almost daily. Tell me a way that the Steelers can re-sign Bud Dupree now. Heck, you wouldn't. Nobody
18
wanted
months
him.
ago. Yeah, it would have been get him out of here.
And people thought it was a bad decision. Put the give him his fifth-year option and yada yada, all like that, and then here we are. So you got to keep your mind open. It's okay to criticize a player. Obviously, I mean that's what we do. That's what people do. But on the flip side, if a player if a player makes a turnaround, you have to be able to acknowledge and accept that and analyze that as well. And you obviously got. Look, we'll see what happens with Edmonds moving forward.
Sure. He's not going to be Minka Fitzpatrick.
Right. It was one game. Okay. But I mean, he's had other games this season where he's played well. It just hadn't showed up in the box score. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's had some tackles. I mean, I think he's doing a tremendous. He had gloves on too. I don't know. I don't know what that means anything. I know it's something that you and I look. He's been close on several plays this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, we're
including
talking
last week. He dropped an interception off the Hayden tip pass against the Bengals.
I mean, we're talking about an Edmonds player right now that probably could have 5 interceptions right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been close. It's all been close, but no cigar. He finally got the cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the saying? I don't know. Something like that. But to give you some stats to it, I believe, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes it's hard to find positions exactly. This is the first time in Steelers history that a pair of safeties have had a pair of interceptions each in one game, and they are the first Steelers to pick off a pair of passes each in a game since 1995, when Willie Williams and I believe his name is Alvoid Mays.
Wow.
Against the Chargers, or Mays, I don't remember the name at all. I remember Willie Williams, of course, but Mays, one season guy, I think had like 5 interceptions that year, and I think that was it for him. So interesting. Yeah, it's in 95, last time 2 Steelers have had a pair of picks in a game.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, and just 4 interceptions of Luton in this one. I just thought overall, Steelers came out aggressive. They came out heavy with a lot of blitzes, inside linebacker blitzes. Of course, getting Mike Hilton back allows you to blitz the nickel corner a little bit more. And while I thought Luton handled that early, I think he kind of felt that rush later in the game with a lot of passes sailing, a lot of misfires downfield, and really aside from a decent first drive for the Jaguars offense, and from Jake Luton, their offense really sputtered. Went nowhere. You contained the run game well enough, did not allow big plays in the pass game against those speedy receivers, and you just kind of forced Luton to a lot of mistakes, and eventually game circumstance got to the point where they couldn't run the football anymore, and by that point you put the game in Luton's hands, and he's got no chance to come back and win that one.
Yeah, look, you could tell right out of the chute there, they wanted to pressure him. They wanted him to make decisions quick, get the ball out of his hands on downs, on plays that he didn't hand the football off on.
Right.
They did that, and for that first drive, what were you thinking? Oh Lord, here we go again.
A little bit.
They were able to run the football with some success early in that game. Now, when it got down into the red zone there, they got a couple of those pressures, and boy, how great was it to see Mike Hilton coming off an edge again. They're on a 4-man rush with I think Hilton. I think they dropped a couple players into coverage on that. I think Hilton and Spillane. Anyway, I think it was a 4-man rush, but I think Spillane and Hilton might have been two of them in that situation there. But how great was it to see Hilton coming off the edge, and that's when the beginning of his wheels started to come off there. Was at the tail end of that first drive there, and then. You got, as you mentioned, as the game progressed, and I think they lost a guard kind of early in the first half or right around halftime in that game there, and their tackles obviously aren't high quality tackles there. It snowballed on them, and then once they lost the ability to run the football because of the score dictating in that, and once again, I thought the throw on the Edmonds' first interception there was one that a quarterback's got to make. He didn't make it; he sailed it. But how many times in games over the years are you watching other games and you thinking, "Oh man, it'd be great to have a tipped interception like that," or "Man, why can't we get other quarterbacks to sail a pass right into the arms of a defender and all like that?" Well, this game had all of that, and. Man, Tyson Alulu, man, that guy just is the gift that keeps on giving for Kevin Colbert and the Steelers.
Yeah, he just does all the little things well, and I wrote that up specifically in an article this morning for Steelers Depot. He's now got 4 pass deflections this year. Here's the end drive result on all 4 of those interceptions: missed field goal, interception, which came later in the drive, did not come directly off the Alualu tip. Punt, and then Sunday, the interception that directly led to Minka's interception in the red zone. And that was a huge moment. It's a 10-3 game. It's second quarter. I mean, Jacksonville's driving. The game is certainly not over by any means at that point yet. And I swear, anytime there's a tip ball in the air, you just know 39 is going to come down with it. He's got 3 red zone interceptions in the last 2 years that leads the NFL. You put a ball in the area of him, he's going to come down with it and make the play. 9
interceptions for him now. Is that right?
In the Steelers' career?
Yeah, Minka.
That sounds about right. I haven't checked the numbers, actually. But, I'm trying to find what is the Steelers' record for most interceptions over a 2-year span. I think it's at least 12. It may be higher than that by Mel Blount or somebody. Yeah, 9 interceptions already from Minka in 2 years, and obviously he didn't even start 2019 with Pittsburgh.
Right, and look, once again, you getting it from all different angles when it comes to the defense. Once again, it was good to see Hilton back. You were still able to get Sutton on the field in certain sub-package situations there. I mean, Stephon Tuitt still doing Stephon Tuitt things. I can't believe the national writer Dan Graziano, who normally isn't too terribly awful when it comes to some of the things he wrote. Maybe we'll get to it later in the week. Probably won't get to it today with him suggesting that Ben Roethlisberger will be a salary cap casualty after the 2020 season. He also slipped in there that Stephon Tuitt might be as well too for a mere $5 million savings. But let me tell you, if Tuitt stays healthy and continues playing like he's playing, I mean, that you're not going to cut the guy for $5 million. to save $5 million. The way that guy's playing right now, just lights out when it comes to him. Alualu just continually beats. And how great was it to see him do that back in Jacksonville? Really have a tremendous game. I thought top to bottom overall there, and the teammates just genuinely excited for each other on the sideline. I mean, you cut to that interception, and Minka and Tyson Alualu are sharing a moment, and Mike Tomlin comes over and points right at Alualu, said, "You're the one that caused that." And then later in the game, after Edmonds had his first interception, you see Steven Nelson just come over and just give him a big old hug, on the sideline. That's culture right there, folks.
Exactly. In the second pick, I mean, they just poured off the sidelines on them in second interception. The whole defense is just going crazy. I mean, you said that so well, David. It's culture.
Yeah, that's culture right there. So I mean, other than some more popcorn kind of situations there, and those things are going to happen. A little bit of miscommunication here and there. Maybe a couple of bad feels by both Vince Williams and Spillane on some of those runs there, and some after contact yards that you probably wish weren't there overall. But I mean, here we are, where we're breaking down a defense that gave up 3 points overall in a game that registered a negative 1 point. I don't know, 1.5 or 1.2, I forget what the number is, adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. They had how many sacks in the game? 2, right? 2. Bud and Stephon Tuitt. And how many interceptions in this game?
4.
I mean, and they kept the quarterback under a 50% completion rate, right? Or just right at it?
Mm-hmm. Well under, 16 to 37.
I mean, what more do you want? I mean, our job is to break this stuff down and find the good and the bad in both of it here. But once again, let me end our talk about defense here. We're talking about a defense that allowed just 3 points, had 4 turnovers in the game, 2 sacks. I mean, what else do you want? You did what you're supposed to do when the smoke cleared there.
Exactly. You made a rookie quarterback look like a rookie quarterback. You didn't allow any big plays. That was my number one concern. The run game, it didn't concern me too much. I knew Jacksonville would have some success, but the Bengals had success. Dallas had success. Baltimore had success on the ground. None of those teams won. You just didn't want to allow the big chunk play. They did not allow a play longer than 19 yards, run or pass. And so you do that against Jacksonville, you're going to win that game, and they did.
Exactly. And special teams, you hate to see that, Bob. You were the ones that jinxed that, right?
I did not. I was waiting until the Boswell missed, but I'm mad at CBS. I spent my entire Saturday night going through old box scores of Matt Barr and Jeff Reed trying to find the streak for Boswell, and then CBS gets on top of me and has a streak. But anyway, to the stat itself, Chris Boswell had a franchise record, 25 straight field goals made. CBS puts out the stat of that, and then of course he misses it. But Cam Canada, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, that his snaps this year had not been crisp, and I really kind of attribute that missed field goal to a very low snap from Canada.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah, he's having some issues there. If you know his name or you hear his name, then something's wrong.
Right. So I'm not saying pull the ripcord on this guy, but it's been an issue, and the holders have bailed him out this year, whether they're talking Colquitt or Berry. So want to see better from Canada. Other than that, the special teams I thought was fine. I mean, it was other than that a quiet part of the game, which is kind of where I want those things to be, and against teams you should be. Just have it a quiet part of the game where it doesn't get talked about, and that's probably not going to hurt you then.
Right.
All right, Dave. Anything else from this game? I think that's everything.
Did we miss anything? Special teams or anything? Or Ray fair caught one he shouldn't have fair caught, I think.
Yeah, I was okay with him. It was a weird situation. The defense is on the field. I know there was room to run, but I just want to secure the football and make sure because that was weird. They took the delay of game. They kept put the offense out. They took the offense out. I just want to get possession of the ball and not have anything dumb happen. So I'm okay with that one, to be honest with you.
Okay.
All right, Dave, I think at this point we will pause for the Mike Tomlin presser, which is going to happen in just about 50 minutes on our end, and then we'll come back, discuss what Tomlin talked about in his Monday presser, doing it on Monday because of the Thursday game, of course. Then we'll do some reader emails and close out today's show. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds like a winner to me.
All right, we'll be back in a couple moments to cover the Mike Tomlin press conference. And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Mike Tomlin just concluded his Monday press conference. Dave, nothing too earth-shattering, although from an injury report standpoint, got some good news on Vance McDonald. Mike Tomlin said McDonald expected to practice tomorrow, did not confirm that he would be available for Thursday's game against Baltimore, but I would highly anticipate that McDonald will be able to go on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, barring something happening at this point with him, his exact wording on that is Vance is scheduled to work tomorrow meaning Tuesday. He's been cleared to come back. We're going to let the quality of his participation and how he responds to that work be our guide in terms of determining his availability. So obviously can wait probably, I think before he does practice, he would have to be activated or removed from the COVID reserve list. I would imagine after they find out what they need to find out about Zach Gentry and his knee, that's probably going to be a move, right? I would think you just swap one for the other, so you don't have to use up a roster spot when it comes to that aspect of it there. As far as Juju and Joe Hayden goes, look, just have to see how the week plays out, right? I mean, Mike Tomlin doesn't sound too terribly concerned about it. In fact, he made sure to point out that those are guys that, let me see, get the exact quote here. Where does he say? I'm still waiting. Okay, no, he says it's safe to say that's on Gentry. Some other guys who went down in game and were able to come back or were in position to come back, whether or not we chose to bring them back or not, are Joe Hayden and Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll let their availability during the course of the week be our guide in terms of their game availability. He went on to say that we don't have a lot of physical work ahead of us this week, that Wednesday is a significant day, and especially a significant day for guys that fall into that category in terms of the bumps and bruises associated with play. So, he didn't say they're going to play, or we'll make it through the week. And as we said earlier in the show, it's probably a little bit too early yet. I would think just by body language, and that's dangerous, that Juju is probably the sorer of the two players. Joe Hayden seemed to be, on Twitter last night, just seemed to be that he dodged a bullet and was more scared about what his injury than the seriousness of it. So I would guess that he'll be fine. Who knows with Juju, the way he was limping and on a short week. The other guys, Trey Edmonds, Jalen Samuels, and Jaron Elliott. Mike Tomlin didn't really have any update on him. Basically, in so many words, it was stay tuned to the injury report that'll come out this week as the week progresses here. I would think that today's Monday. Is today the estimated injury report day?
I think so.
Yeah, I think Monday is estimated injury report today, so we're probably not going to learn much today. Tuesday would be the first injury report of the week, and then obviously Wednesday would be the last injury report of this week. If I had to guess right now on a short week, Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels and Jaron Elliott will probably all be hard pressed to make it back this week. I would think, as you stated, Vance McDonald would be a surprise if he's not back. I'd be surprised if Hayden isn't ready. So I would think Juju's probably the most questionable as we head into closing down this Monday.
Sure, I think that's a fair, accurate assessment, although I'm pretty confident that Hayden and Juju are going to play Thanksgiving, Steelers, Ravens, a lot on the line there. You can mathematically, I believe, take the Ravens out of the AFC North equation. I think Hayden and Juju are going to play in this one.
Yeah, and you can mathematically, I think, take the Ravens out of the division this week, but the Steelers cannot clinch the AFC North this week in Week 12. However, they can clinch a playoff spot, I believe, if they win and if the Raiders and the Dolphins both lose. I don't know how the ties break into that just yet. Obviously, the Week 11 is still going on right now through Monday. On Tuesday if any clinching scenarios are possible, they become official, and the league usually prints them in the league media side of things on Tuesday. So we'll get the specifics of how any ties, if they play into that. But look, just win.
Yeah,
it's week 1. It's week 12. Just win. The rest of it will take care of itself.
Sure. Mike Tomlin also in his press conference praised the contributions of some guys that may be forgotten about from yesterday's win. Benny Snell, what he did, short yardage. Tomlin obviously was not 100% pleased with the overall run game, but the short yardage aspect of it, converting on 3rd and 4th and 1, the 1-yard touchdown that Benny Snell had, and also praised Marcus Allen, who I should have mentioned during the special teams portion of the podcast with that great onside recovery. Jacksonville, they go down the field, they kick a field goal in their opening possession, they try to surprise Pittsburgh with an onside kick, trying to find an edge, a 1-8 team trying to upset a 9-0 opponent, and that was a great heady play by Marcus Allen to recover that one, recognize it, and make the play. And so those little detail things from Snell and Allen, Mike Tomlin was pretty happy with.
Yeah, I put that in my 5 keys too. No, watch out for a loose Jacksonville Jaguars team in this in this game. Little did I know it would happen as early as it did in that game, and they kind of tipped it off with kind of the if they would have done maybe more of a more traditional onside kick. Who knows, but...
Yeah, it was a receiver kicking it. How cool was that, though? I didn't know Keelan Cole could kick like that.
Yeah, but you lose kind of the kind of the motion there and all kind of let you know that something was up there, and Mike Tomlin was asked about that, says, yeah, they practice that, every week, yada, yada. We'll see.
You're glossing over some Danny Smith love there that I think you should not be glossing over.
All right.
No, part of it was you could probably sense something was coming, but then also just the physical act of catching that in traffic. Marcus Allen certainly not a receiver, so just a good job to recognize that and then make that play with 4 Jaguars defenders closing in on you.
And we have some breaking news coming across about the Ravens here, Alex.
Do we?
Yeah.
What do we got?
We have. Last night we were informed that multiple members of the Baltimore Ravens organization tested positive for COVID-19, and those individuals immediately began to self-quarantine. We have started a process of contact tracing during this time under their Under Armour Performance Center will be closed with all team activities conducted virtually. So,
on a short week, I wonder.
Yeah,
that was said. It said, do we know if it's players or do we know if it's just
staff? We don't know.
Okay, so not a lot of information there, but the facility shut down and they have to travel too, and obviously there's extra caution when teams have to travel. So. Stay tuned for that, I guess. We'll hope for the best.
Yeah, what's going to happen here? Are we going to run into a situation where I don't know. It's early, but let's see.
It's early, but it's not because the game's only a couple of days away.
Let me read this one more time. Last night we were informed that multiple members of the Baltimore Ravens organization tested positive for COVID-19, and those individuals immediately began to self-quarantine. We have started the process of contact tracing, and during this time, the Under Armour Performance Center will be closed with all team activities conducted virtually. We will continue to work closely with and follow guidance from the NFL, team doctors, and medical trainers. Boy, that's a hell of a way for them to start a short week.
It's going to take 24 to 48 hours to contact trace, to test everybody. They won't be able to practice this week, basically.
Right.
They can do stuff virtually, obviously, but they really probably won't practice at all this week, and they're traveling. So, all right.
I wonder, you think what are the chances you would put on this game making it Thursday?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to gauge it. We're getting the information right now, but it does not. There could be a chance, just given the short turnaround. A Sunday to Thursday game like this, the fact that they're traveling, there's multiple positive tests, not just close contact or any sort of thing like that, like what the Steelers went through with Ben and others. Stay tuned. That's all I can say.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
All right, Dave. Anything else from the Tomlin presser you want to touch on, or do you want to jump to some reader emails and close out today's show?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and look. We're going to have a lot to talk about the rest of the week. We hope to have John Eisenberg back on the show. I think on Wednesday, assuming this game goes goes off. You just never know, do you? What we're going to wake up to nowadays, right now in this COVID world we live in. So, do we have anything else that we missed?
I think that was everything from Tomlin. Anything else we can circle back to on Wednesday, but let's get to some reading emails, and I know you said we have a lot of them, and close out today's show. Dave.
All right, let's see. Devin Beerley writes in, hey guys, thanks for all the hard work. I know he started out, this is about Steven Nelson. I know he started out a little slow the first few weeks of the season, but how do you think Steven Nelson has played the last month or so? He seems like he's not being targeted much, and he's back to playing as well as he was last year. Look, I mean, I think you hit on one of the key points there. He's not being targeted all that much. I'm interested to see what happened there was a wide open situation on the left side of the field. Mm-hmm. Was that first half? I think it was first half.
Yeah, they carried him and Edmonds both carried the same receiver vertically.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see that on all 22. Look, it's kind of one of these things. You're not tested, not giving up a lot of catches. All it's kind of hard to judge the play. I think overall he's able to come up and make tackles and all. So. Yeah, it's one of those squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. But overall, I haven't been too concerned about him really most of the season overall.
Yeah, I mean, there was some level of regression from last year because he just didn't allow a touchdown last year, and to expect that two years running is just unreasonable. I think the whole secondary in general has calmed down a bit. Some of the third down concerns that popped up in, say, the Eagles game have kind of gone away. The defense has been great on third down in the last 2 weeks. I think opposing offenses are 426, so that's been a key component to things. But yeah, Nelson's been solid, and him and Joe Hayden supporting the run, physical tacklers. I think a really underrated portion of the game are how physical these guys are and how willing they are to support the run and to tackle the cash, not allow a lot of yak. And so that's a really underappreciated element of those games. It's hard to find one corner that can do that. Steelers have really four, I think, with Hayden, Nelson, Hilton, and Cam Sutton.
And Russian coverage, man. It all goes together, it really does. All right, thanks for the email, Devin. Let's see. JJ writes in, JJ from Lexington, incredible guest on the show. Have you guys ever entertained the idea of having Merrill Hodge on? Not only do I enjoy breaking down players or positions, but I feel like he really, let's see, part of this is blocking. Let's see, but I feel like I'm learning what he explains. My last question, do you guys know the criteria used in a tiebreaker for number one seed? Just wondering if we lose to the Ravens. Let's not get into tiebreakers yet. I don't feel like pulling them up and all either. We're still several weeks away from that. Still, JJ. I mean, I would think obviously conference and common gains play into that quite significantly. There being as how the Steelers and the Chiefs don't play head to head there. I used to notice at a moment's notice. I don't feel like looking it up right now. As far as Merrill Hodge goes, I mean, look, we just don't have a lot of time, and we have our beat writers on during the week that are guests. And, if we have an injury or whatnot, we have Dr. Mel on to talk about that. Just not a lot of time to have a lot of guests on, JJ, maybe during the off season or whatnot.
Yeah, off-season will be fun. We've had some guests on in the past, but these shows already run about 2 hours, and more guests may go 3-4 hours. So, but yeah, we're always open to having guests, and I think some fresh voices, and hopefully we can have some of that in the off-season.
Jeff Berg writes in, 10-0. This is no diss on Claypool. I'm just wondering about his hands. I think that's one aspect of his game he could work on. Time to hit the jugs machine, perhaps. Seems like passes have gone right through his hands. What do you think? Oh, and Dave, Coach's Corner is still alive and well in Savannah. Okay, one of my old stomping grounds still alive. They now have a big big stage outside for live music. Jeff, I imagine that's one over there off Victory Drive, because I think the one that I used to go to the most was over there off Mall Boulevard right there, and I believe that one shut down several years ago. But the one on Victory Drive, good to hear that one's still up and running there. As far as Claypool, Alex and I talked about that a little bit earlier in the show, and it's really more the ones that are kind of involved, the pass interference more than anything there. The only time I saw any issue with Claypool's hands on his college tape was on those underneath crossers,
Mm-hmm.
That was really the only time that I really saw that I went, hey, that, a little bit of issue with the hands there. And I don't think we've really seen that at the NFL level. You had the one in the end zone that we talked about last week against the Bengals, but, Ben did put a little bit of mustard on that, so to speak. But, Jeff, I'm not concerned about Claypool's hands right now. I mean, I just more than anything like to see him maybe come down with one or two of these, pass interference ones. But once again, we're in first world problems with that kid right now.
Yeah, I think the hands, there's been a couple moments where he's had some catches that he could have made that he didn't. The biggest thing for Claypool, I think, is some of the deep ball tracking. It's been a little bit, and I don't know for sure if that's all Claypool or Ben or just a chemistry type thing, but there's been some issue of just trying to find the football downfield where it seems like he's looking over the wrong shoulder. And again, I can't put that all on Claypool necessarily, but I'm sure some of the blame is on him. So that's probably the biggest area I want to have Claypool work on, because he's capable of being a deep threat, but just finding and tracking the football is probably the biggest thing I want to see him improve upon right now.
All right, Richard Smith, T-shirts and Juju, he says. Okay, I would. He says, I've been listening for years, but first-time writer. Okay, Richard, thanks. First-time writer here. He says, I would put the following saying on the T-shirt: the terrible podcast where the minutia is fungible. There you go. We're working on something on that. We don't have the final details. Got a kind of preliminary design, if you will. So we'll see where it goes. We'll make sure to let everybody know when that's put into action there. I got a lot of emails on that, though. Seems like a lot of people are interested in possibly buying a shirt for charity, and that would be good for Alex and I to do as well too. You and Alex are a great team. I don't mind your 2-hour podcasts. I download them and listen to them during slow times at work. All right, that's good. He said he wanted to weigh in on my stuttering, because I am also a stutterer. My daughter is studying speech pathology at Alex's alma mater, Clarion University.
Clarion.
Yeah.
Hey, very cool.
She had to take a course on stuttering and said the experts don't know why people stutter, really can't cure it. There are techniques that they can teach people, but there really isn't a definite fix. Look, I'm not worried about it. People don't want to listen because of the way I speak. Fine. I'm 50-something years old. I got bigger fish to fry during the week than to work on any of that stuff there. Now on to the Steelers. I know next year there'll be major turnaround on the Steelers. I would not be surprised if they let most of the free agents sign elsewhere to keep Juju. There is some promising youth on the team's defense. I realize that the Jags are not a juggernaut, but the defense was rotating young players all game, and the last quarter and the last quarter was almost all young players. They still kept an almost NFL team at 3 points. I know you described how the Steelers would need to renegotiate several contracts, cut some players under contract, and not resign their free agents. The idea is all based off Ben coming back next year. It would give a second year with this receiving core. I know it's early, and you and Alex haven't looked at college players. Are there any good tight ends? We're not even going to get into that yet, Rich, because we haven't spent time on it. Could they go for tight end first round? Absolutely. The short answer is yes.
Yeah.
He says, but I could see them keeping Ebron to keep that receiving threat at tight end. Look, here's the thing, Rich, and people asking, we don't know what the cap's going to be. That's going to play a big role in this. And people keep asking me about Juju. And look, here's the long and short of it with Juju. It's going to cost at least $16 million per year for Juju to retain him. It's going to cost around $20 to $22 million in first-year money for Juju. His first-year cap hit of a new deal in 2021 will be somewhere probably between $6 and $7.5 million, just spitballing there. it's all about, you're going to have to, let me ask you this, people out there, are you wanting to cut Vince Williams to, if it came down to that, would you cut Vince Williams to keep Juju?
Right.
It's just some of the things you got to think about, and not knowing what the cap number is going to be right now, if it's going to be 175 million, if it's going to be 98.2 million, it makes it hard to put this thing together. But let me tell you, here's the other thing about Juju. Once again, I'm not opposed to them keeping Juju. I think there is a there's a small possibility that it does indeed wind up happening. But free agency starts in March, folks, and that's when he's scheduled to be a free agent. It would be a shock if they put the franchise tag on him. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to get something done with him almost immediately after the 2020 season ends, and that's just not, it's going to be tough to do when you've also got Ben to extend. Several other guys you got to look at as well too. You got to make your salary cap casualties. If, like it or not, there's going to be 2 or 3 of those guys on top of it. It's just so hard to sit here as we sit here right now in November and talk about a salary, an already strained salary cap situation that this team's going to have come March, when we don't even know what the cap number is. I mean, we've already got teams now, looks like, not going to have any fans at the stadiums all season. Even
Right.
more like the Eagles are backpedaling the wrong way. Who knows what's going to be in the next? I know in Las Vegas they're going the other way the next 3 weeks in an almost full lockdown here. I don't even think they've had fans at the stadium here yet. So
right. Pittsburgh cases spiking.
Right.
The restrictions in Allegheny County where the Steelers play. So yeah, a lot of uncertainty there.
I mean, I get it. I want to see Juju back as well. Alex does as well. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that you want to see come back. But all I can tell you is that what a contract might look like for Juju, and what the first year cap number for Juju would look like. And then look, I mean, the other things, that we talked about, getting Ben done, extended, that'll save some aspect of money. And then kind of going from there. But once again, not knowing if it's going to be 175 or 198.2 or $205 million cap number really makes it tough. And people say, oh, there's no such thing as a cap. It can be massaged. Yeah, it's true to a point, but there still comes a point where this team's up against it pretty big.
Right. No team, the league has never experienced a constriction like this before, and so suddenly and unexpectedly, and there's only so much you can do at that point. So we'll see what the number comes in at. Hopefully it's the higher the better, obviously. Although the way things are going, as you outlined, Dave, that number is probably not going to be at 175, but it might not be too much higher than that number, which is not going to give teams a lot of wiggle room.
Right, and there's not a lot of restructure room, period. I mean, unless you get into extending Nelson, extending David DeCastro, but once again, you're talking about a time frame here of making it all fit by the middle of March. All right, That's tough to do, man. I mean, that is very, very tough to do. It's one thing if you're just waiting for a Ben restructure or something like that, all right? But it's a lot more than that, and it's going to be extremely, extremely tough. And it's not impossible when it comes to Juju, but I'm telling you, it's going to be tough. All right. Adam Ilfelder writes in, David Knox, thanks as always, great content. Wondering your thoughts on whether this wide receiver group is a little parallel to the 2008 Super Bowl run. Deontay as a dynamic option like Santonio, Juju as the gritty do-it-all Hines, and Chase as a deep threat with Nate Washington. Clearly the deeper group with James Washington and Ray as well, but seeing Ben build relationship with Deontay reminds me of that Santonio connection in the 2008 Super Bowl run. Yeah, I get it. I get the parallel there.
Yeah, I mean, I get that on a surface level. It's a team led by Ben, the threats at receiver, an aggressive, pressure-happy defense that takes the football away. Yeah, there were on a surface level plenty of parallels there.
Right. Look, and I think Eric Ebron and a lot of them are starting to put this into focus right now. This whole 10-0 start sounds great. 16-0 sounds great, but if you don't win it all, I mean, how are the Patriots remembered a few years ago? You know?
Sure. Right. They were undefeated until they weren't.
You know, and that's how you go down there. And people saying, I don't know. I think the Steelers are getting plenty of respect right now, don't you?
Yeah, I don't follow that stuff a whole lot or measure it too much. I just don't even care, to be honest with you. I know you probably really don't care a whole lot either.
I mean, other than the whole Ben, being ranked kind of middle of the league, which I get it from a metric standpoint.
I mean, there is some silliness, and I know we don't have time to really go into it today, but as you mentioned earlier, the whole ESPN, is Ben going to be a cap casualty? Is Tua going to be a cap casualty?
That's the stuff.
What undefeated team is talking about cutting their quarterback? That's the national media stuff that probably irks some people.
Right, and that's the stuff that's the most head scratching. Not look. Does this team have warts? Yeah. Especially, more so on the offensive side of the ball, even though they've averaged how many points a game still?
Right, 20. They're 24 points in 10 straight games, which is a franchise record.
I mean, if you didn't actually watch the games, would you have a different opinion of maybe what this of what this offense is at this point of the season? Steelers fans in general love it when their team keep pointing out that their team's getting slighted. We don't get the respect that we deserve.
Well, players do it too. I think it's just a combination. Everyone likes the us against the world mentality that kind of gives you that extra motivation to, get the job done.
I'm not so much. Like you said, the whole Ben a cap casualty possibility. Only if his arm falls off.
And even then, I might keep him.
Other than things like that, man, I think a lot of you guys need hobbies or something, I guess. I don't know. I don't see all that. Let's see if we can find some more here. Chris Bailey, hi David Knox, happy 10-0 victory Monday. An almost stat of the weird for you. Jacksonville threw more interceptions than they scored points yesterday, and I couldn't help chuckling at their Saxonville banner on the sideline when we sacked them twice and they didn't have a single sack. I'd like to see Claypool have better hands on a deep ball, but it's tough to criticize when he's scored 10 TDs so far this season. I guess he's already well over the preseason prediction value, as I recall. That being said, about 4. Oh yeah, he's way over that. No real question from me this week. I love your idea of a fungible minutia T-shirt for charity. All I ask is that the T-shirt and printing are good quality and it can be shipped worldwide, please. Yeah, we would make sure of that. Chris in Sussex, East Sussex, England. There. Let's see what else do we have here. Lee Greenspan, Anthony McFarland question. David Alex, first off, you two do a great job. I'm thoroughly impressed with the amount of effort you two put in each week and get us fans of knowledge for the upcoming games as well as in-depth analysis about the past games. Keep it up. As for my question, I have noticed almost every time Anthony McFarland comes into the game, he gets the ball. Prior to this week, he had 39 snaps played this year. He had recorded 17 rushing attempts and 6 passing targets, which comes to 59% of the plays he is in. Or to him. I think he got the ball 3 out of 4 snaps this week. That all seems quite high. Does he have problems in pass blocking? Is that the reason? I understand he is a rookie and pass blocking is a tough skill to develop in your first year, but it cannot be a 59% clip with the other D coaches should be able to figure out. Also, like our running game as a whole, he has been relatively unproductive when he gets the ball. What are your thoughts? Lee from Toronto. Lee, we already hit quite a bit on that earlier in the podcast. Here's the thing about his blocking. I went through all of his games last 2 seasons with him. There just not a lot of instances with him pass protecting. The biggest takeaway from his pass protection on my study of him is he had the willingness to do it. But overall, we're talking about, I don't know, a dozen snaps. So he wasn't asked to do it a lot. It was satisfactory when he did, but that's not a big sample size here when it comes to that. So, does he have a flashing red light on his helmet right now? Sort of.
Yeah, I think that's common for some backup running backs, and I have to put that number into context. As you said, the sample size is kind of small. I'm sure Benny Snell has a high touch rate on his snaps too. For guys that aren't the feature back, the 3-down type guys, those numbers are probably higher, than compared to a James Conner or a 3-down type of guy. So I'm not particularly concerned about it. I think that just kind of comes with the territory of being a rotational back, and I'm sure again if you ran the numbers on Benny Snell, you'd probably get a higher figure, I bet you, with Benny Snell.
Yeah, that's true there. When Benny comes into the game too, so you could probably translate it over there. I think this all boils back down to results based analysis, right? He's
just saying the numbers are the numbers, and I get that, but I'm not particularly concerned. And it's not like it's 85%. It's under 60%. So it's a higher number probably than James Conner, but it's not something that is to me like flashing red light number.
The biggest thing I think is you just like to see more production, and he's tripped out over his feet once, but on the flip side, he's not going to be a prototypical 3rd down back just yet, So you got to try to get him in games where you can, and we'll see how they're able to build on it. The biggest thing is you're just not getting any significant production out of him when he is touching the football just yet. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's the focus.
One other one here. Garrett Goldberg. Hey, guys, not a question, but just wanted to say I think some merch for charity would be a great idea. Would definitely buy a fungible or minutia shirt. Also think we need to get one of Alex's lines in there. maybe faith greater than carry.
I like that.
Yeah, we could probably do something along those lines. Let us get the first one done first, and God knows it's not going to happen this week on a short week here. Maybe the long week we can spend a little bit of time on that. Somebody else asked me, and I don't have time to look for the question, but I know they wrote it in, asking about Ben Roethlisberger and a possible extension, and how I've written about probably going to be another 2-year extension, and can they do it longer than that? Is there an age restriction? No. It's just that his last extension was 2 years. I mean, they could technically do a 4-year extension so they can stretch out the whatever signing bonus a full 5 years, allotted 5 years. It's just I don't see them. I mean, they could, and you could save a few more $1 million in cap space in 2021 by doing that. I just would be surprised if they did that, and I'm working under the assumption that any kind of extension would be a 2 or 3 year extension. But there's nothing to say, nothing to prevent them from doing a longer extension so they could, kind of stretch. Look, I mean, if you read that article, it's still not stale at all. The one that I wrote back in August about all the different options that they have as far as Ben Roethlisberger's contract goes. I think it's one of my better ones, about all the options in there. Mm-hmm. So go dig that one up, and you can see all the various options the Steelers have in there when it comes to, an extension for Ben and ways to kind of trim up some cap dollars off, by March.
Yeah, I think 2 to 3 years is reasonable. Anything longer, and Ben's not going to want to commit to that. But yeah, Dave, I know you've written about the topic a ton, and I think the articles you've written are still relevant. So I would just, we know the name of one of the articles? I don't know. I'm trying to find one of them. But anyway, just search it on Steelers Depot, and I'm sure you can find it and reread that information.
Right. I think cap scenario or something like Roethlisberger and cap. If you put that in there, I think that'll get you to it. To find that article specifically. But that's I spent a lot of time on that. Put a lot of different scenarios in that for everybody there. So look, here's the thing. They're going. It would take something astronomical at this point for them not to extend him, I think. I mean, I think it's almost guaranteed he's going to get extended at this point. And because of when his roster bonus is due in March, that's when it's going to happen in late February, early March. So,
right.
in the story. And now it's just a question of how much and how much can they save in 2021 cap space.
Yep, exactly.
All right, let's get out of here. I'm hungry. You're probably
Me
hungry.
too. I'm very hungry.
One of us got to write up this Baltimore Ravens news. We got to get this.
It's already posted.
We got to get this podcast going here. All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. If you like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational button as well. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Busy week for us here. It's going to move super fast. Please visit SteelersDepot.com because we got a lot of content happening over the course of the next few days. Alex and I will be back on Wednesday. What's happening tonight? What's my schedule look like?
We have our Monday YouTube live stream. Probably going to do it for just a half hour tonight because things are so chaotic this week. So 7 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave and I will jump on YouTube to answer any and all of your guys' Steelers questions.
All right. Stay safe, everybody. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.